So, I've been thinking over some new ideas. Sorry, I just sat in the chair. I hate this chair. Anyway, like I said, I've been thinking about other ideas for DC animated movies. I've kind of given up on Marvel because they just seem to like motion comics more. But anyway, DC animated ideas, I think, I thought of a few more ideas that would be cool to see as DC animated movies. Sorry, no specific Batman one, but there's there's about one that's close to Batman. But first off, let's get this started with a Superman story called Superman Ending Battles. This was written by Jeff Johns, Joe Casey, Joe Kelly, and Mark Schultz. What this story basically revolves around is basically a super villain known as Manchester Black has discovered Clark Kent is Superman and has given it out to all of his villains, and I mean everybody, like the atomic, like not just the big ones like we all know, but also little ones like the Atomic Skull and Silver Banshee and all these other lesser-known Superman villains. And Superman is forced to go around the world and fight all these different villains. It's a very good story. I think it's a very hard-hitting Superman-based story. It would be nice to see another Superman, just a single Superman story that revolved just around, Superman, rather than, a story that involved Batman in it. Just another. I just like, other than All-Star Superman and Superman Doomsday, there hasn't really been really another one with just a Superman one, other than All-Star Superman and Superman Doomsday. So Superman Ending Battle would be another good one. I think this could really easily transition well into a DC animated movie. Just the plot sounds like an animated movie. It has animated movie written all over it. I think this is very good. I think it'd be a cool way to show. It'd be another cool way to show Superman at his finest. Pity, and it'd be a great way also to show, Superman has other villains outside of Lex Luthor and Darkseid. Because people just usually think Lex Luthor and Darkseid, as well as sometimes Metallo and Parasite. But there are other. This would be a great way to show off Superman's other villains, and show Superman, cut loose against all these guys. So, I think this would be a very good story. I mean, look at the cover right here of the comic book. Well, I mean, look at it. He's frying Darkseid right here. So I think this is a definite. This has got to become a Superman, a DC animated movie, because this really does sound like a good, hard-hitting DC animated movie. So following that is Day of Vengeance. Now, Day of Vengeance is actually kind of a tie-in to Infinite Crisis, but not really. It's basically where it's a DC animated story, not DC animated, DC 5-part miniseries where the Spectre has gone insane and has decided to commit mass holocaust on every magical being. This would be a fantastic way to bring in, all of the DC animated characters. I think this would be a very good to bring in all their magic-based characters. I mean, I think Day of Vengeance would be a really cool idea to bring in all the DC magic-based characters, because this involved everyone. The Spectre, Phantom Stranger, Dr. Fate, Etrigan, Captain Marvel. All the DC magic beings were in this story, and all fighting the Spectre. In fact, there's actually a really cool fight where Captain Marvel actually grows, he actually gets bigger, he grows to a gigantic size, and him and the Spectre actually have a monster-sized battle. They're the size of Godzilla and King Kong, of Godzilla-sized monsters, and they're fighting it out in a city. So I think this would be a really cool idea. I think it'd be like I said, I think this is a fantastic way to bring out all of the magical beings in the DC universe, because people don't really know a lot about them. So I think it'd be a very, outside of, who else do people think of outside the DC animated stuff? Because I think this, like I said, we have all the DC magical beings. And this doesn't really tie in much to Infinite Crisis. In fact, you can leave out Infinite Crisis quite a lot. actually. You can just say the Spectre's gone mad, and the Spectre can be the main villain here. So I think this would be a very good, hard-hitting story. Well, I know I said hard-hitting for the last one, but yeah, this is another good one. You know, it's a little more adult. This one's story is a little more adult. It does involve the Spectre killing people, and I think it's a very, you know, this could transition easily into a DC animated story. In fact, you could probably call it rather than just call it Day of Vengeance, how about call it like Captain Marvel Day of Vengeance or Dr. Fate Day of Vengeance, because the main characters in here were Captain Marvel, Etrigan, and Dr. Fate. Those are the three main ones it's centered around. So yeah, you could call it something like that rather than just call it you can just call it Day of Vengeance, something like that. But moving on, we have now we're gonna move on now to Catwoman, Win in Rome. This is the story written by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Tim Sale did the artwork, I meant to say. This is a story that takes place like in between Batman, The Long Halloween, and Batman Dark Victory. This basically the main character in this story is Catwoman and the Riddler. This story basically centers around Catwoman and the Riddler going to Italy to find Carmine Falcone to figure out if Selina Kyle really is the daughter of Carmine Falcone. Or I can't remember. I think it was Falcone. I think this is another good character. I think Catwoman is a very deserving character. I think she can pretty much carry her own movie, much like Wonder Woman can. I mean, yeah, granted the Wonder Woman DVD didn't do so well, but on the other hand, it did show that you can do an animated movie around a specific character. Especially a female character that's not Superman and Batman. So I think that's a very good idea. I think that's a very well put together idea for especially with Catwoman, because people actually have a lot of. I think this would also be a very good way to bring Catwoman, have a better perspective on Catwoman rather than that god awful live action movie. In fact, I mean, look at the Jonah Hex animated short. That beat out the Jonah Hex live action movie by a long shot. So I think and a lot of people know who Catwoman is, and I think this is, like I said, this animated feature would be very cool to feature, to actually bring her out of the light and out of the shit stain that was that Halle Berry movie. Also, this is a very good mystery story. So, and it involves, it does have Batman in this story, and a lot of people, especially DC fans, are going to gravitate towards this because this involved Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale when they were doing their best at, especially this. In fact, you don't really need to mention much of Long Halloween or Dark Victory, but I think this would be very cool, along with the Long Halloween animated movie I talked about in the last time I did this video. But yeah, I think this could easily work. Like I said, this is a good way to bring out Selina out of the and actually you could probably do this around with the Dark Knight Rises coming out next year. So it'd be a good way to bring out more of her character. I know that Catwoman is going to get a animated short in Batman Year One, but I'd like to see her get her. I think she's very capable of holding her own movie, and I think this would be a good way to use that. So yeah, there you go. So next up is Our Worlds at War. Now this was a big story arc involving this being known as Imperiex, who was threatening Earth, New Genesis, and Apocalypse. This story basically centered around every member of the DC universe fighting against the Imperiex and his armies. I think this would be a very cool story. Our Worlds at War, very good story. You can just call it Justice League in Our Worlds at War. And even though it had Lex Luthor as president in this story, I think you can basically take out Lex Luthor as president in this story and put in like just a president working alongside Darkseid in here. So you can basically make this a Justice League movie, more or less. and I think this is a very well-deserving idea. I think this could easily transition well, but you'd have to cut out all the tie-ins and just stick it with the story, because this is a very big story arc. This involved it was big. Let's leave it at that. But I think if you just centered around the main storyline of Our Worlds at War, I think this would do very well. And just make it a Justice League story. You don't, because mostly where it takes place is in the Superman books, and some tie-ins here and there. But the main story was in Justice League and Superman. So making this would be a good, strong Justice League story, and having a villain that no one DC character could stand up to. So yeah, I think people would gravitate towards this because this is a Justice League story, and you could even have Kyle Rayner instead of Hal Jordan, and have Aquaman do stuff in here. So yeah, I'd definitely love to see this done. So those are my picks for other movies. You guys tell me what you think of these. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Did you guys have any other ideas? I'm not like I'm going to post them or anything, but I just want to know, what did you think of these four, and would you like to see these done into DC animated movies? These are just some more thoughts I've been having racked up in my head, so I decided to, do a whole video about it. But you guys tell me what you think of these.